It's time!
Oh, right on the chin.
Mamma mia! What a knee!
You cannot stand in front of that man. That power is different. It's extraordinary.
And another opponent!
Whoa!
What a head kick! It's all over! A spectacular finish, just like that! Headshot, bang! Done!
What's up, everybody? We're back with another episode of The Fight Corner, episode 4. Finally got around to doing the next episode using a video format, which is what took me a little bit longer to get this one out, just getting used to it. Many people might recognize this format as a copy of the Pardon the Interruption overlay. It was my favorite sports show growing up, so just wanted to pay a bit of a tribute to that, and I hope you all enjoy it. Please let me know in the comments down below what you think, if you want to add anything, or if it's too much, take some things away. But yeah, let's get into this week's episode. Kicking off this week's card, taking a look at the main event from UFC 298, Alexander Volkanovski taking on Ilia Topuria for the featherweight championship. Very even opening round, Volk landing a lot of kicks with that lead leg to the leg and to the body of Topuria. But Topuria did have that advantage in the first half of that round, landing some hard leg kicks of his own. But Volk came back in the second half, landing a good left hand and started to evade the attacks of Topuria and making some good adjustments in what was a fairly close opening round. And in the second, Volk was doing a great job working off of his jab and doing a really great job of avoiding the initial attacks of Topuria. But when Topuria closed that distance and threw to the body and the head, while Volk was against the cage, and then crumbled him with a huge right hand that instantly shut the lights out, dropping an unconscious Volkanovski to the canvas, and followed up with a few strikes on the ground. And the damage was already done before that, and Topuria is the new UFC featherweight champion, and that's going to be massive for the European market, especially for in Spain as well, and hopefully they'll be able to get a card there, most likely in Madrid, but possibly Barcelona as well, but that'll be very interesting going forward. In the co-main event, we had Robert Whittaker taking on Paulo Costa. Great opening round for Whittaker, beating up the lead leg of Costa and landing some good shots upstairs. But Costa had moments of his own, with some really fast head kicks from the lead leg and from the back leg, and also some good jabs as well. But especially in the final moments, that first round, landing that wheel kick right to the face that wobbled Whittaker, and Costa followed up with a few more good shots before the end of the round. The second, though, was a really good comeback from Whittaker, still beating up that lead leg, landing combinations upstairs. But Costa was still being effective with that jab, and he really busted up the face of Whittaker in that second round. And it is all to play for going into that third. Costa had a really good start to the third round, being more active and still attacking that lead leg of Whittaker and using his jab. But as the round went on, Whittaker did start to pull away on the strike count, landing the way better and cleaner strikes. And it was a really close fight, and the judges had it that way as well, 29-28 by 2 judges for Whittaker and 30-27 for the other. Moving on to the rest of the main card, we had Jeff Neal against Ian Machado Gary. All 3 of these rounds were fairly even, in my opinion. The first round, both looked really good, landing strikes in the feet, Neal with the inside leg kicks and punches upstairs, while Gary was landing a much more varied attack with kicks, knees, and punches. And the second and third kind of really went the same way. Neal really kind of implemented something with the clinch game and try to get some dirty boxing going off, but it just really wasn't working out for him in that way. Was landing some very good punches when they were out in space. But again, Machado Gary, Ian Gary, whatever you want to call him, was being a bit more varied in his attacks, and it did land a bit more going through the second and the third round, and the judges did see it as a split decision, 30-27 for Gary times 2, and one judge had it 29-28 for Neal. And in a fight that a lot of fans were really anticipating. We had Merab Dvalishvili and Henry Cejudo in a classic bantamweight title eliminator. First round, Cejudo having really good success, landed some really good shots on the feet and a big left hook, but Merab had moments of his own, landing a single leg and also having a right hook to Cejudo as he was getting up. But the second round was really strong for Dvalishvili, landing the way better shots in the feet, landing several takedowns and controlling Cejudo, and he finished the round looking for that 10-finger guillotine while making direct eye contact with Zuck. And all to fight for going into that third round, but Dvalishvili has all the momentum, and going into that third round, he just continued to build on that success that he had in the second round, dominating the entire third, taking Cejudo down again, controlling the clinch up against the fence, and at one point he just picked Cejudo up from the double leg, carried him across the octagon and threw him to the ground. A total domination in the second and third round for Dvalishvili, and he is definitely next challenger for that bantamweight title against either Sean O'Malley or Marlon Chito Vera. And that first fight on the main card was one I was also really looking forward to. Anthony Hernandez and Roman Kopylov. Really great strikes from Kopylov to start off the round. Some solid body kicks and punches. And he did a really great job of defending Hernandez's takedowns. But Hernandez really did start to put on a real good pace with his grappling near the end of that round. He was credited with one takedown, but I really didn't think he was successful with any of these attempts, but they were grinding on Kopylov for sure. And in the second round, more good strikes in the feet from Kopylov, but Hernandez stayed with his game plan, staying in Kopilov's face, pushing him back against the cage, and was able to secure a solid takedown, went to the back, and from there the fight was basically over, looking for that RNC. The initial one was defended quite well by Kopylov. He was really struggling though, you could see it on his face. And the second attempt, when they were in that little transition, he sunk that in deep, forced Kopylov to tap. Great performance from Hernandez. Can't wait to see him again. I think an interesting matchup for him could possibly be Chris Curtis, or one that I would really like to see would possibly putting him up against someone like Paul Craig. And again, excited to see what's going to be next for him in the middleweight division. On the prelims, we also had some really great fights. Amanda Lemos taking on Mackenzie Dern, who was stepping in to replace Tatiana Suarez. Fantastic fight. Great strikes on the feet in the first round from Lemos, landing some solid calf kicks, really damaging Dern's left leg. But Dern was able to get a beautiful takedown and controlled the rest of the round from the ground, but wasn't really able to get off any offense or advance her position to any kind of a possible submission scenario. The second round, Lemos battered Dern in this round, busting her nose and doing some real damage to that lead left leg and to Dern's right eye as well. But Dern did end the round on top after hitting a beautiful sweep, but that again was another clear round for Lemos. The third round, much better from Dern, landing a strong right hand and then getting the fight right to the ground. But again, she really wasn't able to do anything with the position, not landing many significant strikes or securing any near submissions, but did show a lot of heart coming out in that third round after the beating that she took in the second that left her face a bloody mess. And Lemos took that one unanimous decision, 29-28 times 3 on the judges' scorecards, and hopefully now she will be able to get that fight against Tatiana Suarez when she comes back. We had Marcos Rogerio de Lima taking on Junior Tafa, who stepped in for his brother, Justin Tafa, after an injury to Justin's knee later on in the week. Solid leg kicks from de Lima that crippled the lead leg of Tafa, and then landed a great combination before hitting a double leg and controlled Tafa on the ground for the rest of the round. Landed some good ground and pound as well. And in the second round, more leg kicks from de Lima that sent Tafa to the ground. That leg was done. It was finished after the first round, but it was over now. Tafa falls to the ground. De Lima followed up with a few hammer fists, and that was it. We had Rinya Nakamura taking on the newcomer Carlos Vera, making his debut at the age of 36, which is quite old. Really great grappling display from both guys. If you didn't like grappling or jiu-jitsu, you probably found this quite a boring match. I really found it quite interesting with the transitions that these guys were going through and the defense that Nakamura showed, avoiding all of the attacks that Vera was throwing up. Really great performance by him. Showed his wrestling, showed his ground game. Fantastic performance. Unanimous decision, 30-27 across the board. Mingyang Zhang and Brenson Ribeiro. Looked like Zhang was going to have a real early night as Ribeiro was landing some good hard shots and keeping the distance. But when Zhang stepped in and landed a hard jab and followed it up with a right and then a perfect left hook behind it, that dropped Ribeiro, and then followed it up with a few brutal hammer fists to end the fight. Gets the KO at 141 in round number 1. Definitely one to watch out for in the light heavyweight division at this time. Josh Quinlan and Danny Barlow. Barlow landed the higher volume with some good shots, but Quinlan did have his moments in the first round and did seem to have quite a bit more pop in his shots. Second round was very much back and forth in the first part of the round, both exchanging, but Barlow started to put more shots together near the end of the round, landing some real good combinations and some flying knees. And in the third, Quinlan tried to come out and make it a brawl, knowing that he would need a finish to get the win. But when he started putting that pressure on Barlow, he got cracked with some hard counter shots that dropped Quinlan numerous times. Jason Herzog gave Quinlan every chance to survive, but he had to step in and avoid and stop Quinlan from taking any more punishment. Really great performance from Barlow on his UFC debut. Moves to 8-0. Again, another really exciting prospect for the welterweight division. We had Val Woodburn taking on the Welsh gangster Olban Elliott. In the first round, Elliott landed a really nice head kick that didn't even seem to faze Woodburn, who came back and landed some big shots, really rocking Elliott, who managed to survive and was able to get the fight to the ground, controlled Woodburn for the remainder of the round, landing some good shots from the back, and then getting the mount, getting a bit more ground and pound off before the end of the round. And again, it was just more of the same in the second. Elliott able to control the fight on the ground, taking the back of Woodburn and just cementing his superior ground game. And the third was much the same. More ground control from Elliott, transitioning into the mount and landing some real good shots. But he did allow Woodburn to get back to the feet and take control of the grappling exchange, but Woodburn was not able to take advantage of that in any way. He really needed to break up, get into some space, and try landing some big shots to try to get the finish, but he seemed like he just had nothing left in the tank. And Elliott takes his UFC debut 30-27, 29-28 for a unanimous decision. And kicking off the prelims, we had Andrea Lee and Miranda Maverick. In the first round, Maverick went for that takedown, but Lee was able to reverse it, end on top and side control, but Maverick made it to her feet. But in doing so, Andrea Lee was able to keep that body lock and hit a beautiful belly-to-back suplex. But as the round went on, Maverick did land the far better shots with a variety of kicks, but that left overhand of hers was her main weapon and it didn't miss the target too many times. Second round, more good work from Maverick, getting the takedown against the cage and landing more on the feet while also evading a lot of Angela Lee's attacks. And the third round, rinse and repeat basically. Maverick landed the better shots in the feet. Lee did land a really nice spinning back fist that hurt Maverick at the end of the round, and Lee was able to kind of lock up a triangle off of one of Maverick's takedowns, but she wasn't really able to lock that in, and she also didn't really have the time to start working it properly. And Maverick takes the unanimous decision victory, 30-27 and 29-28 on all three judges' scorecards. As for the bonuses, Mackenzie Dern and Amanda Lemos got the fight of the night bonus for their fantastic women's strawweight battle. Well deserved, most definitely. I think a lot of people were a bit upset that it didn't go to Costa and Whitaker, but no complaints from me on this end. That was a fantastic fight. I enjoyed watching both of them, both fantastic, but you got to pick one, and it's basically a coin flip, I think, in my opinion. Performance of the night bonuses went to Ilia Topuria for winning the featherweight champ with that brutal second round knockout of Alexander Volkanovski. The new Chinese light heavyweight fighter Zhang Ming Yang notched up a beautiful first round knockout of Branson Ribeiro and got his $50,000 bonus for that. And Anthony Hernandez got his $50K bag for that beautiful performance against Roman Kopylov, a very dangerous fighter in his own right. But another great win for Fluffy. And in the news that I think every single MMA fan was waiting for, we finally got the main event fight announcement for UFC 300. It's going to be Alex Pereira and Jamal Hill for the light heavyweight championship. A fight that I don't think many, if any, MMA fans had picked for what was going to be slotted for this main event. Good fight, not amazing, not the most top caliber fight I think could have been slated into this very prestigious card, but a good fight nonetheless. Definitely going to end in a stoppage, but again, one that I don't think too many fans are going to be that excited with. But at least we finally got some closure on this. The card is now basically set, and we can all move on with our lives and start looking forward to that main card and some other great fights that the UFC has coming up going forward. And looking forward to next week's fight card, which is going to be an absolute banger. UFC Fight Night Moreno versus Royval 2 from Mexico City, Mexico. Of course, being headlined by Brandon Moreno and Brandon Royval, which is sure to be a banger in that flyweight division. You also have Yair Rodriguez taking on Brian Ortega. And we're finally going to get some closure in that match, as this is a rematch from their bout back in 2022, where Rodriguez won the fight due to shoulder injury, and Ortega has not been back since then. So a good, 18-month layoff for Ortega, but really great fight to look forward to as well. That's it, a wrap on episode number 4 of the Fight Corner. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support. Please leave a like and comment down below, and don't be afraid to subscribe also and hit that bell so you get all the notifications of when I'll be dropping new episodes, which should now be coming out much more regularly. I've got this video version. I'm finding it a bit easier to work with, so we'll be coming back with a lot more regularity in the future. And I do hope to be covering other organizations outside of the UFC. I want to do some events for the PFL/Bellator, some boxing events, and also some jiu-jitsu stuff as well. And hopefully you'll find all that really exciting. But stay tuned for this week. We're coming up with a full breakdown video of UFC Fight Night Royval Moreno number 2 coming live from Mexico City. So until then, thank you again for tuning in. Peace.